Welcome to another episode of Business Gist. This is a platform where we talk to different business owners and entrepreneurs and discuss about their journey, their experiences, their ups, their downs, and also try and pull out any knowledge that they have to share with those of us that are watching. And today, we've got Larry DeRamus on the platform with us. Hi, Larry. How you doing?
Hey, Tosin. Good to be here.
Awesome, awesome. Now, Larry is the founder and the president of DeRamus Wealth Management. He takes a holistic approach to developing a financial game plan. He considers an individual's complete financial picture, ranging from short to long-term goals, and also certain events that can be otherwise disruptive to your financial well-being. Also, Larry is one of my financial advisors and mentors and advisors for our CPA firm. So we've been working together for a very long time now.
And you can tell by my seasoned look that I have been around for a while, right?
Yeah. And Larry, how did we end up meeting actually? Do you remember?
Well, I do remember. I was actually in the office leasing space from my former CPA, Owen Stewart.
That's right.
And you bought his firm.
That's right, yes.
And so I then became, then I wound up in the office with you for a period of time. And so that's how we met, through an acquisition.
That's right. It's through one of our mergers and acquisitions that we do as a firm.
Right.
That's good. That's good. So how has the journey for you as a business owner and entrepreneur been like so far?
You know, it's been an exciting, constant process of learning. You never stop learning in this business. There's something to learn all the time. There's a new episode that starts every day when you pick up the phone.
That's good.
It never stops. That's the good thing.
That's good. This type of learning, is it something that is intentional or just happens with every interaction that you have with the clients?
You know, I try to be purposeful in my learning, but every time you engage a client or every time they experience a new event in their lives or another circumstance, you've got to go learn some more. You know, and so you're constantly interacting with other professionals, other experts in other fields, and so you're just, you know, constantly learning and sharing what you've learned.
Yes, yes. Building that network so that you have that knowledge to share with folks is important. How did you get your first client?
Well, my first client was me. You know,
okay,
I was real fortunate to have a mentor when I started in the financial services business to explain to me that you are your product. And so what people are buying is you.
Okay.
Right? And until they trust and believe in you, then whatever this product or solution you're going to propose won't be worth a lot, right? And so that was probably the best advice I ever got, is understanding that I have to eat my own cooking, right? So that I can show up and be authentic and genuine when I propose something to somebody. It's something I believe in and I have experienced personally, right? And that's still my approach today.
Okay. Man, that was not an expected answer, but I really, really like it. So, therefore, how'd you get your second client then?
Well, you know, my second client was when I started off in the financial services business, it was on the life insurance side. And so they had you put together what was called the 1,000 clients. Believe it or not, you know 1,000 people. You don't believe you do, but they literally have you sit down and write the names of 1,000 people. And then you pick up the phone and you start dialing, right? And so you start with warm relationships and you go on. Now, fortunately for me, I had worked at Texas Instruments for 10 years. I knew lots and lots of people at Texas Instruments. So I kind of thought of that as my farm, right? And so I would call relationships of people that I had developed relationships with there, and I still have clients from those phone calls and those meetings from 28 years ago.
Oh, wow. Wow,
Yeah.
that's good.
Mhm.
That actually leads me to part of my intro, which is that you were in the Army as a helicopter pilot. Then you also went to TI working there, then to becoming a financial advisor. Can you tell
Right.
us about, your time in the Army, then how you got
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
Army to TI, then from TI to now you're a financial
Yeah,
advisor?
amazingly, Tosin, the things that I learned in the military and as a helicopter pilot are very transferable to what I do now. One of the things that you learn as a helicopter pilot especially is you've got a checklist for everything. For those of you who don't fly, pilots don't take off until they file a flight plan. That flight plan tells the air traffic control where you are, where you're going, and the proposed route you're going to take, right? Sounds a lot like a financial plan, right? If you're going to retire, you need to know where you're going to go. When am I going to do that? How much money do I want to be able to spend when I get there? What are my resources now, right? And then we'll put together a plan, a game plan for how you might go about doing that. So a lot of similarity, a lot of research and investigation goes into being an engineer. I was an engineer at Texas Instruments. It's process driven, right? I remember one of the two major engineering philosophies you learn are the mean time between failure and the mean time to discovery. Very appropriate for investing, right? You want to try to identify things that people can invest in that don't fail catastrophically, right? When they do fail, they recover quickly, right? So a lot of transferable philosophies
Skills and
from those experiences that I've had. My last position at Texas Instruments, I was in the business development team. They'd sent me off to get an MBA in business and finance, and I was working to commercialize technologies that TI had lots and lots of patents, and so our team was in charge of trying to figure out, hey, can we build a business around this technology, right? And you do a lot of business plans and a lot of financial analytics, and so that was a great match to the financial services business.
So after your time in engineering, what prompted you to say, okay, you know what, I want to be a financial advisor?
Well, I don't know if it was that clear, but I read this book, and I still have this book. It's marked all up. The pages are, and it was written by Reginald Lewis. He's just a major hero of mine, and it's called "Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun?" Right? And reading that book spoke clearly to me that I really wanted to own my own firm, run my own business, be in charge of my own life. So I do think that was a very, very much a turning point in the way that I looked at the world. And then there was also a saying that says that the brave don't live forever, but the cautious don't live at all. I think Richard Branson was given credit for saying that. I don't know if it's true or not, but that resonated with me too as well. Right? Take some risk.
If you guys haven't noticed, every single time that I talk to Larry, I'm always learning like a million new things, all right? So I love having these conversations, and that's why he's one of my mentors. But continuing, as a financial advisor, do you have to get financing or funding to get the business going?
Well, some firms do and some don't. I think it cuts both ways. Unfortunately or fortunately for me, I didn't. Looking back on it, I wish I had, right? So I built my practice organically. I started from the ground up and just built one client at a time over many, many years, right? I kind of wish that there were greater barriers to entry into this business to force you to really capitalize the business properly so that you could do it more strategically. But this is a business where there are lots and lots of financial advisors because there's really not, other than the exams and the learning and the studies and that you have to take and pass, there's not a lot of cost to getting into this business.
Well, everybody is called a financial advisor nowadays. Even CPAs are called
Right.
financial advisors.
Exactly.
So, can you expand more on, the different types of financial advisors that are out
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
and also differentiate that with what you do as a registered independent
Yeah.
advisor,
Yeah.
RIA?
Yeah. Well, DeRamus Wealth Management, my firm is a registered investment advisor, right? So registered with the state, and we have a fiduciary responsibility to our clients. So we make decisions or recommendations that are in the best interest of the client only, right? Whereas the rest of the financial advisors out there don't have that standard. That doesn't mean you're not going to get a good recommendation. But their standard that they're held to by FINRA, as opposed to the SEC, is the suitability standard, meaning is this suitable advice? Is this a suitable product for the circumstances for this client? I can give you examples of how those things are different, but it's really just the standard of the standard of care that the advisor is required, the lens you're required to look through to determine whether or not the advice that you're giving is either suitable or in the best interest of.
We've got advisors at, let's call it big banks or brokerage accounts or brokerage companies such as, Chase's, Bank of America, Edward Jones, Fidelity, and so on and so forth. How does that differentiate from being an RIA then?
Okay. So broker-dealers, and a lot of broker-dealers are also RIAs as well, right? So that's why.
Real quick, broker-dealer, you're talking about the companies themselves, like Chase, Bank of America,
Right.
Ameriprise.
A lot of those companies are both. They have both a broker-dealer, which means they buy and sell securities for their clients, and a lot of those products charge commissions, right? Whereas on the registered investment advisory side, you don't sell commission products. You charge fees, a far more transparent relationship. So in the case of an RIA, if you invest with a registered investment advisor firm, you know exactly what you're paying because it's actually listed on the report or the statement that you receive. Whereas if you invest with a broker-dealer on a commission-based product, you probably won't ever see the fee because it's embedded in the expense of the product or the solution that you're purchasing, right? Okay. So if you think about the typical mutual fund, you get a statement, you see the number of shares you own, but you don't see what you're paying to your advisor or what you're paying to the firm. Whereas with a registered investment advisory or an investment advisor, you'll actually see the fees that you're paying for the solution that you're invested in, or product that you're invested in.
So with
It gets a little cloudy.
Yeah, so with all that complexity out there, how do you know a good financial advisor from a bad one, or how do I know if I'm getting good advice for me?
You're right.
There's
Well,
many out there.
I guess the first thing I'd have to say is people are smart. Clients are smart. And the best way I guess the way I think about it is, when you're a juror and you're sitting on a jury, and there are two lawyers out there, one's they're representing their various points of view. That juror kind of knows what feels right. Hey, I know if this feels right for me. I know if this is good advice for me, right? Because the idea is there's no such thing as perfect advice. The question is it effective? Do you feel like the advice that you're receiving is going to help you achieve the objectives or address the concerns that you have, right? So I'm not willing to say that a RIA's advice is going to be better than that of a broker-dealer. I would never say that. I think there are good advisors on both sides, and there are bad advisors on both sides. I wish I had a better answer to really help whoever's listening to make that determination, but I think ultimately you have to decide as the client, does this instinctively feel like this is going to help me move forward toward my goals and my objectives? I will say a registered investment advisor has a higher standard of care, right? They've got to they're supposed to make their advice in the interest, the best interest of the client.
Well, a lot of times when people come to a financial advisor, it's mostly because they've been referred there, they heard about they're supposed to be doing this, saving this, putting money into this and that, right? So maybe they don't have their own objectives yet, but from my experience with you, you do have a way of fleshing out those objectives, and you call them the 5 pillars. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, well, the 5 pillars, is kind of our secret sauce, right? Everybody has to have a methodology or a process that helps them speak more clearly to their clientele. And so we trademarked our process and we codified it in this acronym TRIBE, like an African tribe or an Indian tribe.
Yeah.
TRIBE, right? And so TRIBE helps us to have a conversation with our client, and it's simple. The T is for taxes, and in the realm of taxes, we talk about federal, state, and property taxes. Those are the primary expense-driven taxes that a household has. Risk. We talk about those things that could be catastrophic to a family or to a household. Getting sick, getting hurt, getting injured, dying prematurely. The I is squared, so both investments and income. Okay, so we're going to help the client, if you've got surplus income, how might you deploy that in investments? What's appropriate, right? And income, where's that future income going to come from, et cetera. The B is for banking, which is another word for lending, right? Lending is money. Loans are money, right? So we're going to talk about the debt that the client has and the household has, and what's appropriate levels of debt, and all the things that go into lending and loans. And the E is for the estate, being organized, right?
Yes.
You wouldn't think that's probably the most critical of them all, because you've got to get organized for success, and that's what the E is for, getting the estate organized.
How'd you come about this?
Yeah. Well, it has to do with, I can't take all the credit. I'm always reading, I'm always learning, I'm always taking courses. And I remember one of the coaches that I was learning from talked about how important it is to trademark your process. Trademark your process. Figure out what it is that you do and see if you can trademark it, if you can come up with some way to help your clients understand it and get it and grasp the concept. And you know what? I sat down and I said, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. And I came up with this notion of TRIBE, T-R-I squared, B cubed, banking, business, and budgeting, and E for estate. And it's amazing how appropriate it is when you actually go through a discovery interview with a client. It helps me make sure that I don't leave any things out, because what I'm trying to do is make sure there are no holes in the boat, right? Yeah.
No, that's really good, and I think you've actually challenged quite a few of us out there, because inside what you're saying, one important piece that I'm taking away is that you have to trademark a process that makes you stand out.
Yeah, that's your IP, right? I mean, one of the things that makes companies worth more, other than the assets that they have, is their proprietary, their intellectual property, right? So that is part of our IP, right?
And it differentiates you from anybody else that may be doing the same thing. Like we talked about, there are many different types of financial advisors. even lawyers and CPAs kind of fall into that group of financial advisors because we do talk
That's
money.
exactly right.
But how does it differentiate you between A and B? No, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. With your current knowledge of everything you know now, being an entrepreneur, dealing with different clients from different walks of life, because I know you deal with entrepreneurs, you deal with business owners, you deal with businesses themselves, you deal with athletes and so on. If you were to go all the way back to day zero of
Right.
being an entrepreneur,
Right.
financial advisor,
Yeah.
instead of writing that whole list down of 1,000 names, right?
Right, right.
What would you do differently?
I would, the book, I forget the name of the book right now, but you begin with the end in mind. I would have, knowing what I know now, that's cheating, but if I knew then what I know now, instead of looking for the first client, I would look for the 5 like-minded subject matter experts who would buy into the vision that I have about tribe, essentially, right? And start with a team, right? I would start with the team as opposed to the clientele, right? Because when you really think about what makes the difference between a great company is they've got a team that, and it's going to change over time, right? But whether it's a football team or a basketball or a baseball team or a soccer team, those members of the team make it work.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that's what I would do. I would go out and recruit the team first, right? And get capital, raise capital, right? And then go after the client. So if I could, I would try to do it that way.
Now, is it building a team or having partners?
Well, you know what? I'm saying those things are essentially synonymous, because you might formalize it later and make it a team, but maybe it begins as a network or strategic partnerships, or alliances, But I think ultimately it's about, hey, can you bring a group together, right? That collectively, right? It's that 1 + 1 = 10 thing, right?
Yeah.
That collectively can bring an awful lot of value to a household.
No, that's good. That's good. As we're wrapping up here, do you have a final thought to share about your experience in business, financial advisory, to our viewers out there?
Yeah. I guess the one thing that I would say is get started. Get her done, as the guy says. Get her done. Historically, Americans they procrastinate, right? We spend, and you'll always spend if you don't have a plan, right? So I would say that the best advice I can give you is be decisive. Indecision is the biggest deterrent to success, right? Not making a decision. So I guess that would be my parting message. Get started.
Good. As a final thought to all those of you that are watching out there, at least what I'm taking away from this is really to trademark your process that differentiates you from everybody else out there. All right. There are many people that are doing the same type of work, whether we're a CPA, whether it's a financial advisor, or whatever the profession or business may be. But if you have that process, that repeatable process that you can share and build along with your team and such, it's only going to take you that much further. Well, thank you very much, Larry. This was a great episode. I appreciate you for coming by and gracing us with your presence.
Thank you for having me, Tosin. This has been fun.
Everyone out there, thank you and take care. This is another episode of Business Gist.
Bye-bye.
All right. Anybody say cut?
Cut.
Cut,
Cut.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, man. That went quick, too.
That was interesting. I think we even went overtime. I think I saw him restarting the time.
Is that right?
Yeah. So that was good.
Well, thank you, man.
Thank you very much.
Oh.